young.
I am.
And I am a young
Black.
A young black.
Young.
Black.
A young black.
Black equestrian.
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 Black equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
equestrian.
Black equestrian.
I'm a young black equestrian.
I am a young black equestrian.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Young Black Equestrians. In this episode, we are going to speak with Jermo from Frankie's Corner, Little Thoroughbred Crusade, and Trevor Claiborn from Farmer Brown, the MC. These two men have gotten together and produced an amazing program called Seeds to Saddles, where they teach kids about agriculture and the horse industry combined. So we are really excited to talk with them today and to hear more about their journey, more about their program, and more about their vision for the future. So stay tuned to hear more about these programs. But first, we'll have a word from our sponsors. Clinics for a Cause, an initiative sponsored by Online Riders Collective, connects amateur riders with top trainers in a program that benefits the Equestrian Aid Foundation.
For only $25, riders submit videos up to 15 minutes long and get audio feedback from top clinicians recorded over their video clip. Outstanding trainers from all disciplines have volunteered to participate.
Please visit the website for a clinician list and submission instructions, www.onlineriderscollective.com. We have on the line today Trevor Claiborn, also known as Farmer Brown, the MC. Welcome to the show.
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess briefly just start off with telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and what you do.
Okay, so as you introduced me, my name is Trevor Claiborn, aka Farmer Brown the MC. I've been doing youth ag programming for the last 5 years. I got my bachelor's science in ag, food, and environment at Kentucky State University. A little bit about my story. So I grew up in Northside Lexington. We aren't really around farms. I guess kind of telling of my age, I grew up in the time of rap music and Michael Jordan. And so the conversation around where I wasn't about agriculture, especially, people that look like myself. So most of the time you see melanated people, you see it through the lens of social studies books or movies like Roots, 12 Years a Slave. So when I was coming up, it wasn't something where we necessarily saw ourselves operating in that capacity. So fast forward, so in 1995, when I was in high school, my friends and I started a hip-hop group, Bonafide Circle. Did that all through high school, ended up moving to Atlanta, Georgia in 2000. We interned with Arista Motown Records for 5 years. There was some local artists, Rob Jackson and Black Coffee. So we toured around the country, fast forward, lived the rap life that we thought we wanted. And I ended up back in Kentucky by 2007. Ended up cleaning for a while. And so it was in 2008, some friends and I decided we wanted to do a lawn care company. And so I'm trying to fast forward to kind of give you a little context to where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's all right.
My whole thing was, okay, yeah, we can do this lawn care, because we were sitting up trying to figure out, now what can we do? We had noticed when you look around Lexington, where we're at in Kentucky, you never see more than 10 melanated people doing a specific, like, contracted job. We think about some of the jobs around the city. We think about, like, farm maintenance, any sort of jobs that required a team. It was a personal challenge to myself and my friends, like, hey, why don't we ever see more than 5 of us operating within these spaces? And so with that mindset, I ended up enrolling at BCT, that's Bluegrass Community and Technical College, in environmental science and technology. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was just looking to legitimize our lawn care business. But I noticed every class that I went to, I would be the only melanated person in there. And so, once again, I was fortunate to kind of turn up for a few years, really see what the other side of the so-called fun life is. Mm-hmm. So I came in with a little more appreciation of, that opportunity of being in a space like that. Right. So fast forward, I ended up getting a scholarship to attend a HBCU, and I had to pick a STEM field. And so agriculture was on the list, so it was more like a spin the bottle situation. So by this time I was a non-traditional student. Most of my classmates were like half my age. And so, I felt like I picked agriculture because it was a STEM field. It was in Kentucky. And so, I would like to think of myself as an astute student. I like, whenever there's information, I like to absorb it. I'm kind of like a sponge. And so it was the same dynamic even at a HBCU. In these agricultural courses, it would be like 1 or 2 melanated people. And this is at the HBCU. And so by that time, the competitor in me is like, hold up, what's up with this? And so I was fortunate to have a brother. He was from Washington, D.C. He was a young brother. He was my professor, Dr. Charlie Collins. He's at the EPA now. He had a SUNY and wore Jordans, but he had a doctorate in chemistry. And so I had never seen anything like that, coming from Lexington, Kentucky. But he had brought to my attention, he was like, Trevor, do you know that 2 out of every 100 farmers in North America are Black? And, I'm not much of a mathematician, but those numbers are stark. And this was back in 2015 when he brought that to my attention. So fast forward, I'm like a kid in a sense. When I get new information, I like to tell everybody around me. I like to, you get that information, you get that light, you want to share it. So one day I was eating hamburgers with my niece at my mother's house. And I had asked her a question. I was like, hey, Dariana, where do you think, and she's 5 at the time, just to kind of give you context. I was like, where do you think your hamburger came from? She said, a tree. And she answered like immediately, unequivocally. And so, but the thing is, she's a smart little girl. And so in my mind, once I had explained to her where she actually gets her tree, kind of a summary of the food system, she was traumatized. Wow. So when you think about that, like her whole concept of a food system is something that I go to a store and buy. Like she didn't understand, like, hey, everything we consume comes directly from the ground, everything we use. And so, the troll in me, I was like, you know what? I had a Practicum 2 project coming up. And I was like, you know what? I'll merge the two. And so that's where Farmer Brown MC came from. And so, I'm a hip hop head to the core. Came up on down south music, Cash Money, No Limit. Started out on the West Coast, so to speak. But saying that to say I have a love for music, and I can appreciate the impact that hip hop music has on commerce. And when you think, going back to what I was telling you about my first context of agriculture, it was through the lens of slavery. So that was marketed to us. When I talk to a lot of my elders, because my family's from deep south in Louisiana, it's a lot of conflicting stories that don't necessarily go with a social studies book. So once again, the deeper you go to it, you realize we've kind of been marketed away from something that we intrinsically is a part of our culture. And so the thing with Farmer Brown, I was going to go to my niece's school, I had a little outfit, and I can send you some pictures and pull up the video when you get a chance. And I was originally going to reach 300 students. I was like, okay, can using hip hop audio and video productions engage 3rd through 5th graders in agriculture, just to teach it in a fun way. I don't want you to see it as just plows and cows, some old white man on the tractor. Like, no, this is modern agriculture. We're not doing it for free no more. If you understand what the big corporations understand, they understand that the Black youth are the ones that's driving the trends in the country. So my thing was, what can since I didn't have really a background in the actual production, everything you see at a grocery store is marketed. Every product, think about Popeyes right now. Somebody is masterfully marketing. It's kind of embarrassing, it's embarrassing the reaction, but that's not coincidental. It's being marketed. Right. So my thing was, how can you market the importance of agriculture, not just on a career standpoint, but academic paths, personally at home on a domestic level. And so our community is the one that is suffering the most from like the diabetes and all of these avoidable diseases and sicknesses that can be addressed through a better context of agriculture. So long story short, and I'm not going to talk y'all's head off, I did my first presentation in April 2016 at my alma mater, Northern Elementary. And so real quick, so I got suspended from elementary school. I got expelled from 2 middle schools. So I wasn't the best student when I was growing up. Once again, it was the whole thing of, hey, I just want to be cool. I wasn't trying to learn nothing. That was for the geeks. So fast forward, that was the irony of it. I don't believe in coincidence. That was the first school that I presented in. And so I got my 300 students that day. And what I realized, they jumped up and down, danced, had a good time. But I realized, like, you know what? They're going to go home back into their phones and their devices. And so even if I did get your attention, how do you follow through? So that's when I more so embarked on continuous programmatic efforts. And so I've been doing that for the last 5 years. I've done over closer to 200 and 175 presentations, mostly in Kentucky, Chicago, New York, Atlanta. And across the board, I'm realizing that our people, not only our kids, but our people are detached from food. Society was able to enhance once we mastered the ability to produce food. And so my thing is, when, you know, as we have the talks about reparations, you know, we have a lot of changes. We're on the 400-year anniversary of slavery. I think this is a good opportunity to really do some reflection on, now, where are we at 400 years
later
after, you know, it was our labor, our ancestors that were needed to make agriculture and what we're going to talk about with equine, you know, profitable sectors. And now we're only at 1.4%. I know that's the percentage in Kentucky. And I know nationally the percentage is 2%. We reached our peak in 1925. To put it in context, that's when what we call African-American farmers occupied 15%. We were 15%, to where by 2012, that number was down to 2%. So this is post-civil rights era. This is post-affirmative action. You know, we've had access to all sorts of education now. You know, we have a whole new class of earners and your athletes and entertainers. So why are we only primary operators of 2%? So saying that to say that's the driving force behind the work that Jermo and I do. And just a little background on Jermo and I. So I met Jermo about 3 years ago. And in Kentucky, you know, the only time you see a human being on a horse, you see it on Derby time. You'll see the police rolling through the neighborhoods on horses. So Jermo, you know, he's real good with the horses, and he understands shock value. So he ride through the hood on his horse Max, right? And the kids loved it. And the thing is, you think in the horse capital of the world that you have all sorts of ag programming and equine programming for kids, and it's not happening. And so Jermo was able to lock into that. There you go, speak of the devil. So yeah.
Welcome.
My bad. What's going on, good people?
Not much. So I was just telling them how we met. So if you want to finish up, I'll just tell them how here in Lexington, the only time a lot of kids are going to see a human being on a horse is during Derby or seeing police rolling through the hood.
Right.
He was telling us about Max.
Oh, so Max is my quarter horse, and pretty much we use Max typically for everything. And the reason we use him is because he is so docile. And he's great to be around with kids. And like Trevor said, it's funny because I rode Max through the neighborhood one time, and a lot of people thought that, or a lot of kids thought that I was a police officer. And I told them, you know, I'm not a police officer. Police officers don't have full beards. So really trying to change the dialogue just throughout the whole city, just because of what we normally deal with. And again, like I said, my grandfather behind me, he is probably the only one that I knew that was around horses consistently. He did not want me to get into the whole equine thing because of everything that was happening on the backside of the track. And because he was that man that did all that, but he conformed his life to Christ, he didn't want anybody, or he didn't want any of us to get in that whole realm. And he didn't realize I was not that kid that, you know, really got sucked into all that stuff. So I just kind of went to work with him all the time and picked up as much stuff that I could pick up from him. And then, you know, just working with other people throughout his workplace is where I picked up a lot of my skills.
Right. And that's the essence of, you know, the programs that you're running, like just that exposure. You know, kids are sponges, you know, they're always watching and they're always learning from their surroundings. So putting kids in those environments where they can learn, you know, about patience and compassion, especially with an animal, that's gonna resonate with them for their entire lives. Trevor, you're on mute again.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay.
But yeah, so Jermo, if you just want to, I mean, I guess you just told us about yourself, but at least tell us kind of what you're located, where you're located, and what you have been up to lately.
Well, located in Lexington, Kentucky. Pretty much, our program is just typically to give kids an opportunity in equine. Again, we're the horse capital of the world, so they say. However, our children do not know how to get in to equine or deal with horses. They can go to Kentucky Horse Park, but that's one of those things where, yeah, you get a whole day experience. You may get to ride a horse, but what's after that? So that's pretty much, we give them that complete overall opportunity to understand, the mind of a horse. They get the opportunity to see different type of horses. Not only that, but they get to understand the fact that, doing certain things like round penning and lunging is actually what makes a horse become trained. And I guess most kids think that horses are the way that they are from the time of birth. After they come to the program, they get to learn that, from if we go to the farm, that they get to see all the whole foaling and all that. So they get to see horses from the time they're born all the way up to the time we start training. They get that wide variety, which is great because, those of us in the equine industry, we can tell them that, but for them to be able to see that on their own and to see it from the beginning stage all the way up to riding, none of my kids have actually gotten opportunity to see a horse being broken yet. My 1-year-old is going to be 2 in March, so I'll start breaking him in March. So they'll get to see what that whole process looks like from the beginning to the end, in which, typically, if I really take my time, I probably can get a saddle on him probably within maybe 2 to 3 hours, just depending on where his mindset is. But just, it's great. And again, me, I don't know if Trevor got to tell you how we hooked up and, any of that. Did he get to tell you any of that?
He was getting to it.
Yeah, he was getting to it. He hadn't reached that part yet.
All right, Trevor, go ahead, man. You got it. You great at doing stuff like that.
No, so, one thing, so I'll just be real candid. We're not going to get micro-loaned or funded out of the situation we find ourselves in. It's definitely going to take a grassroots approach. Jermo can attest to this. We've both, run the gamut of trying to find so-called partners within the community, organizations that tout this love for building community and providing educational opportunities. And it's a thing where, you don't want to burn a lot of energy getting upset. So it's a thing, just taking initiative. And so, like I said, when I first saw Jermo, I didn't meet him under the context of an organization trying to get funded. This was just a brother out in the community. He had a mission. Once again, it's just a grassroots approach. So both of us have worked with people within the school systems, the college, the secondary school systems. And it's a lot of red tape. The kids that we work for, the kids that we're serving need to be served now. And so the concept of waiting through grant cycles or waiting until somebody decides to find the importance of it, you're letting 2 or 3 years pass in this kid's life when if they would have understood, any one of the things that we're teaching now, they can move on this as they're matriculating. And so that's pretty much how we came together. It was a few years ago.
I think initially what happened where we, I don't know, we was at some community event together, and I had heard about him, but I never knew who he was. And so I think for the first year when I moved back to Lexington, we were going to meetings often. Well, I was going to meetings just to try to see what the dynamic of the city was. And we always ended up in the same circle, but we were both saying the same exact thing. Like, we were going to meetings and everybody kept talking about, we should try this, we should try this, we try this. We go to another meeting, we should try this, we should try this. And for me, it was more or less that, nobody was saying what they've tried, what they failed at, and how can we try again and make it work. Where Trevor had his own program, I had my own program. So, ultimately it got to that point where it's like, okay, I know that my horses need grass, they need great grass, but at the same time, I want the kids to understand the ranch living part of it too. That's not me, that's his thing. So let me see if I can partner with him. He was open arms. There was never any fuss back and forth about it. He was just open arms about it. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And like he talked about, where we have to deal with so much red tape, where we as a people try to deal with one another, and even when we try to deal with one another, it's kind of more or less, what can I get out of it? Where Trevor and I, we're more so much like-minded. It's like, okay, it's not even about us. For us, it's about the kids. Giving them opportunity where if we don't expose them to it now, and if they can't see what's going to happen in the long run, then who else is going to do it? Nobody else is really going to tell them that. Where, you know, you deal with people that it's all about, they'll use that kid are at risk. And I'm like, you know, all kids are at risk if you look at it.
Yeah.
But is, don't use a kid to say you're at risk to do for your personal gain. And that was the one thing. I mean, Trevor is completely genuine about what he does. For him, it's all about letting these kids understand, you know, the fact that agriculture is always going to be around. It's been around for years and years and years, and the future is going to be about agriculture. So he teaches them from that small seed and let it grow. Whereas for myself, equine is that thing where it's been around for generations, Our generation, or should I say, our ancestors were the ones that did the whole Kentucky Derby thing. They owned horses, they trained horses, and so on and so forth, but it got out of it. And where a lot of our kids don't understand that, you know, if you take this, it doesn't have to be your primary job. It could be your secondary job. If you at early age, and once you go to that secondary education, instead of you going to wait tables for $3 and some cents an hour and getting your tips, now you can learn how to train horses, break horses, ride horses for anywhere from $20 to $60 an hour, whatever that you think that you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, you know, I don't know if he talked about seed and sale, and that's where we have that opportunity now to bring the agriculture and the equine together and let them understand how they work together hand in hand.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Tell us about the seeds and saddles. What do you guys have kind of planned for this program for the kids?
So with the seeds and saddles, we, you know, once again, we're taking I could say research approach. So we've already had a few presentations in class. So we've been pretty much doing the grassroots for the last few years. But now what we're doing, we're able to work in the schools more. And so we're taking a quantitative approach, whereas we're able to do surveys, actually figure out what it is that they're learning, figure out what areas are impactful. We're doing it in a session format. And so we do an introduction. This is 2 black males leading the room. Second part is agritourism. And so once again, there's a whole part of agriculture that a lot of people don't think about is the tourism aspect. These kids, most of the kids' parents haven't been to a farm, much less the kids. And so in Kentucky, where we're at in Lexington, we're surrounded by horse farms, we're surrounded by big production farms. And so it's one of those things where, I mean, this is a layup, it's a resource here. And so what Seeds and Saddles is Jermo and I coming together to basically take these kids to these places. More than just a chaperone field trip setting, but an actual educational, consistent programming model. They like to, and I'm throwing up the parentheses, get these underserved community or minority around, take a couple of pictures, and then you don't hear nothing from them. Our approach is we're wanting to start these kids with seeds. You know, literally and metaphorically speaking, we're starting them at seeds. Hey, this is what agriculture, this is the importance of understanding natural resources. Hey, horses, did you know the history of this horse? Do you know that this is like an international business? Did you know there's more to horses than just riding them? Did you know that there's more to agriculture than just farming? And so we're able to break it into detail, and both of us are well aware that kids aren't going to come across people that look like them in many cases to present this information. So the Seeds and Saddles is basically just a conglomerate of agriculture and equine.
Okay, is this a one-day event or like some kind of like club?
No, it's not a club. It's in a multi-session. So like you said, we have the introduction. So the introduction is more of that whole classroom aspect. So we do the classroom aspect, and we give the history, we give the economic, and we give the educational aspect of it. Then the second session, what we'll do is we will take them on a field trip. So whether it be a field trip to a farm, a horse farm, or whether it be a agriculture farm. And then the third aspect is where we kind of do the hands-on part. So whether it be planning, however, Trevor, if he chooses to do the burrow planning or the hay planning or just the pot seeding plant, then with myself, then they get to actually see Max. They get to see different maneuvers. So we'll teach them, some of the basic maneuvers, whether it be if they've never been around a horse, how to horse safety, how to approach your horse, how to walk a horse. Because a lot of people think that, those things are easy. What Trevor does, he can do it and he makes it look easy. What I do, I make it look easy. But when kids get an actual hands-on approach from it, and they're like, oh, okay. And the reason I think we take this approach is because, again, we want to give all those aspects. And by giving all those aspects, again, we can go in classroom and talk about it all day long. And we really won't grab a kid until it's more of the field trip. Take them in the classroom, you talk about it. One, you grab them and you get them interested because we're talking about the money aspect, the economic aspect. Because now, kids, they want to hear about money. Okay, at the end of the day, how much money am I going to make doing this? So and so we grab them in from there. After we grab them in from there, that's when we take them on a field trip and let them see. Then after that, it's that whole the hands-on part. So we're hoping that by us having that approach, then we will grab more kids because they get to see all of the aspect versus just one or the other.
Right. That's pretty cool. So let's talk about what your hands-on stuff looks like. Do you guys have property? Let's start with Trevor first. Do you have land that the kids are getting to, do stuff on?
I currently live on a farm. I work at my day job is Kentucky State University. We have a research farm out there. We also have an organization. I'm the co-founder of Black Soil, Our Better Nature, and we have a network of Black farmers around central Kentucky. And so as far as the hands-on, obviously we steer the tourism part to these farms, then also do hands-on workshops, urban gardening workshops, so container gardening with barrels. These are 1 hour, 2 hour workshops. Seeding activities with peat moss pods, and there's actually hemp starters now. So I don't know if y'all are aware, Kentucky is hemp capital. That's becoming a new buzzword, and so I think it's real important that kids understand the context of hemp outside of cannabis and the smokable form. Like I said, so traditional gardening, and so some of the spaces, we do invite the kids to come out and actually start. Our job is to facilitate that and, cut through the red tape, so to speak, to have these direct connections.
Right. And I feel like what I'm hearing, from your stories over and over is a network. You guys have a network of, you started by networking, just meeting each other, going to different places, and then, trying to teach kids as well as support these different businesses, these different farms, by having that network of people. I think that's really important to note as a professional, whether you're running it as a business or a nonprofit, the sheer power of having a network. Jermo, what you got going on? Where does Max live?
Max currently is at Locust Trace Ag Center, which is I guess you would call it a technical high school. But originally, before then, he was at a friend's farm. And again, this program, Frankie's Corner Little Thoroughbred Crusade, is pretty much is spiritual discernment. So, a lot of people, if I tell them that, they don't understand what that is. And when I started this program, I had nothing. When I say I didn't even have my horse. So I bought my horse. After I bought my horse, the particular farm that I bought my horse from, they didn't let me do anything at that farm. I had a couple kids that would come out here and there, and I would teach them stuff. And so what ended up happening was, with another organization that I partnered with, we found a physician that had a farm, which they have quarter horses on the side. So they let me come out on the farm and let me do anything and everything that I need to do. I mean, if I wanted to have Trevor come out and plant corn or whatever, they would let me do that. As far as the foaling is there, the round pen is there. So that is where, that's going to be my forever home. But it was easier for me to go to the school because having kids dropped off at the school made it so much easier. Then not that, but we had an indoor arena. Where here in Kentucky, we get pretty much 2 seasons. And that winter season is pretty brutal for the kids. Kids are not built like us. We will go outside, if it's 20 below, 30 below, probably have the time to get in trouble for not coming in the house. But now kids, if it gets anywhere below 40, they don't want to be outside. So now being at the school, it actually gave me an opportunity to go volunteer during the school hours, get more kids to come, because at the facility of the school, there's so many kids in the program that the teacher really can't get to those kids one-on-one.
Right.
Get me to come, and that way that I could grab more kids. But that facility also allowed me to have the program actually year-round. So pretty much, 365 days out of the year, we can be there, and the kids have, a safe environment. They have an indoor riding arena versus me having to put them in a very small paddock and them, falling over a fence or whatever the case may be. Now they're in an actual indoor arena, being able to learn how to ride, work with horses, and all that type of stuff. So, no, not yet have we not got that one big piece of land where we can bring seed and saddle to that land, but I think it to an existence where it will happen, where we will be able to get kids to come out. We can charge and, horseback riding, teach them how to do potting soil, whether it be a farm where people can come and have, food, what is it?
Like a community garden.
Yeah, community gardens, or whether, I'm a cook, so we can have food there and, bring people and do a whole tour. Things are going to happen.
Yes.
And that's why, I'm super excited about the partnership. God has a reason for everything. And I don't, people always like, well, do you have an MOU? I said, listen, I don't believe Trevor's that type of dude. I've never had that feeling. And Trevor knows it. If I have a feeling about somebody, I'm going to come to him and be like, what do you think, man? Deep down in my gut, I ain't feeling it. With Trevor, it's never, I don't even have to worry about that. Now, later down the road, if he wants to do that paperwork or whatever, but for me, it's not even about that. I know that our partnership was so organic, and I know it wasn't nothing but God ordained. So I don't look at that type of stuff. So yes, in the future, at some point in time, we will have that entity together. But right now, we kind of do our separate things, but come together, and we make it work through partnerships from our grassroots programs that we have.
You guys are like the male versions of us. Just
yes. Definitely. Like, how y'all even met?
yeah. I mean, it's just like as you're talking, I'm like looking at Caitlin like, yep, we did that too. Yep. But that is pretty cool. I'm super excited about everything you guys have got going on. Like it just sounds amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Like, how many kids do you guys think you've like serviced or got in your programs and stuff?
What you got, Trevor?
It depends on presentations or actual workshops.
Like actual workshops, like hands-on
actual workshops out, because like I said, so I've been doing this for the last 5 years now. So I would say upwards to about 150 actual hands-on works. No. About 300 actual hands-on workshop and over 10,000 presentations in presentations.
So the presentations, I'm not as high, but I think that I have, if I say how many kids that I've directly affected in my program, I've had a roster of about 50. I mean, they all at the same time, but between Max and I going out to different events and stuff, I've probably been around about 10,000 kids within the last 5 years. So it sounds like we started around the same time, but did not know. Because we in 2015. So it sounds like he started about the same time that I did, and it just, again, organically came together. But I've done as many presentations as Trevor. I think as far as presentations, I've probably done about maybe I say 125 or so within 5 years. And again, they range from facility, our faculty staff of the school system to the manners program, manners events. So it's it ranges. It is widespread.
How does it feel being, that first person that introduces these kids to horses or introduces them to agriculture?
It's great. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I remember specifically in 4th grade, I got memory like an elephant. There was one black man that came to present at our school in 4th grade. His name was Mr. Leon Slatter. He was presenting through 4-H. Other than that, the UK cheerleaders came. That was sometime in elementary school. Dare, I don't know if y'all had Dare class. Okay, the Dare officer, he came. And there was a bird lady. She used to bring eagles. But the only black person that ever came to class, that was in 4th grade. And so my thing was, I remember that. With everything I've lived through, I remember that one black male that stood at the front of the room giving instruction. And so my thing is, you know what? If I can affect 2 people, I ain't gonna say one, I'm gonna say if I can affect 2 people at some time during their life, I might not ever know about it, but sometime during their life, they're inspired, they're motivated by action that I was able, because I'm a part of it. Like, Jermo and I, like he said, this isn't an us thing. Both of us have lived long enough to kind of enjoy, the spoils of living, right? And so I guess the bigger honor of it is being able to actually teach something that we're passionate about. And not only just passionate, understanding it, to me, this is a real crusade. I'm with the equity in sports, but guess what? Our boys is out there getting concussions. You know what I'm saying? I'm with equity and entertainment, but hey, we need to be producers. Our ancestors were producers, and the best way to honor our ancestors is to take back those things that they got so good at and get the check for it. What did Martin Luther King say? We're going to get the check. These people ain't gonna give us a check for free. We influence society enough, and if we can get our young people, because the thing is, neither Jermo and I are like Albert Einstein specialists. This is a labor of love. This is passion. And so my thing is, yeah, you do see a field full of us running, chasing balls and shooting balls. When it comes to who's the ones making the lumber for this court, who's the ones growing the grass or doing the science for this field. That's what I want to compete in. And if we can influence these kids to get involved in that, when they look at the Derby, hey, that looks like I see a lot of money being made there, and I don't see a lot of faces that look like me. When I look at these history books, I see your Isaac Murphys. You know what I'm saying? Hold up. And so we want these kids to embrace that. Don't look at it like, oh, this is some boring presentation. Like, no, we want this to be your challenge. And I know their minds will take them, their minds will take them where they're supposed to go. Is just planting that seed, right?
Yep.
I'm same thing with Trevor. Like I say, this is my guy right here. That's my grandfather. It's funny, if I could show you a closer picture of it, he's doing everything wrong. And it's funny because I teach my kids, he's doing everything wrong because he's holding on to this rope really, really tight. When the fact of the matter is, this horse can't go nowhere but up and come right back down. So, like Trevor, I cannot recall anybody within the industry that looked like me. I had a cousin that was a farrier, and had I known and had he lived long enough how much money he was making, like going to a secondary college, listen, I don't kill that away from anybody, but when you can make $100 per horse, that's a lot of money. But our kids do not get to see that because nobody talks about it. Again, it's a passion project, but it's a passion project for us because it's like we know about it. And if we just give this information to some other kid outside of the sports realm, also get to college through these 2 entities. 2 entities where there's scholarships that are given on a regular basis, but our kids don't think about it because nobody is talking about it.
Exactly.
Basketball, and again, I know that having a horse, everyone thinks it is so expensive. And I tell them it's probably no more expensive than being on an AA team.
Right.
AU team. I mean, I umpire baseball, and I've got kids that say they pay $1,500 just to be on a sports team. That's bottom. There's some sports teams that are $3,500. You're paying for the whole year. However, you're only playing for maybe 4 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And that's be on a team. On top of that, you're lodging and
Yes.
Yes, yep.
man, do you know if somebody was to give you a horse for $500 that knew nothing, you train this horse up to be a great, whether it be a trail rider, whether it be Western dressage, whether it be dressage. You turn around and sold this horse that you got for $500 and sell it for $2,500, $25,000, $250,000, $2.5 million. Think about that investment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kids are like, huh? What are you talking about? I said, think about it. Someone gives you something, you put a little bit of passion and love into it, and you turn around and sell it.
Yeah. Get your coin from what you know.
Yeah. And a lot of kids are like, well, how come we never knew about it? I said, it's no different than when they want to keep knowledge from it, they put it in the book, right? It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Keeping all this knowledge from you because they don't want you. I mean, think about it. You ride past, here in Kentucky, you can ride past a ton of fields. You might have 20 fields in a horse.
You'll never look at it.
Because you're so used to seeing it, right? It's become second nature to you. But nobody's ever thought to you, well, dang, those 20 horses have gotten sold. I think what I say, Trevor, I think that the statistic that I gave last year alone, just in horse sales, from the two major sales here in this city, I think it was $2.4 million.
No, 3 billion.
It was 3 big. Well, no, I'm just talking about in horse sales. I'm not as far as the whole equine industry itself.
Right.
In Kentucky was $6.9 billion.
Yeah.
Wow. And we aren't tapping into that.
Right.
That part right there. So my thing is, these little kids, you know, they look at basketball and baseball and all that type of stuff.
Which ain't promised.
Right. Ain't promise. It's one injury and you're done.
And I explain this to them all the time. It's funny because I have a bigger issue with the parents than the kids. I say, you know what? I said, if your kid goes out here and let's say he's learning sport, he's learning equine. That's a horse injury.
I think.
So, and he's learning sports, he's learning equine. He stays at them at the same time. He breaks his fibula once. He breaks his other fibula twice. He's no good on a basketball court anymore. He still has equine. He can sit and do a walk, trot, canter every weekend for the rest of his life and probably will make just about as much money as a professional athlete. On top of that, you could probably do that 7 days a week.
Right.
So, and a lot of parents are like, what? And I'm like, yes, it's information that I'm trying to give to you. You can go to school and do this. And again, it's for us, it's all about just giving their information and exposing the kids to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do any programs or like try to target adults at all, like outside of just these kids' parents?
No, we haven't made it there yet. And the only reason I say that is because I've been doing this for 5 years, and I don't know if you guys have been programming. For us, the kids is not the problem. It's the parental engagement. We have to sell that value to the parent. We can't get the parent to buy in. It does no good to get the kid to buy in.
Right.
You can say, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, I want to do this all day long. But the thing is, most parents are so scared of horses because of the unknown. And the statistic that I give them all the time is, do you know the equine industry is at the very bottom of the totem pole when it goes to hospital injury? They're like, no. I say, you got to realize something. You're dealing with the animal versus when you're dealing with a sport, you're dealing with human beings. So you got a kid that's, either he got dunked on or he got tackled really hard, their emotion is still there. They're going to keep that in the back of their mind. Versus with a horse, hey, you pick up a tarp, you keep doing that tarp and swinging that tarp, guess what? Eventually, that tarp is going to mean nothing to him. Mm-hmm. Versus kid, where 4 plays later, he got hit really hard, guess what? Now you got a blindside hit, neck broken, arm broken, and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, like I said, the biggest thing for us is parental awareness. And once we get that parental awareness, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, even if you are exposing kids to this information while they're young and they do nothing with it for years, when they have kids, they're more inclined to put their kids in something like that because they're like, oh, well, that one time, I did that once when I was a kid. Or even like people who end up with horses and, picking up new hobbies later on in life, they're more inclined to do something like that if they had a positive experience when they were younger. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really good that what you're doing, you got to break the cycle, but you got to get in it, at some point. Yeah. We can't expect it to happen overnight, but you exposing these kids, the next generation, that foundation is already going to be there. Mm-hmm. So
that's what we hope.
Yeah. You have any more questions for them, Caitlin?
I just want to say that y'all are awesome, and I cannot wait to see, the quantitative side of what you all come up with over the next years, because that's going to be something that's going to stick with people. They're going to start looking at numbers and they're going to be like, okay, well, does this really work? And then, I think y'all will just continue to grow, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Listen, we appreciate what you guys do. I mean, I've been kind of checking you guys out, and I see that y'all kind of plug everybody in. And listen, at the end of the day, I think it's somehow, some way, if we could pull some type of, whether it be an East Coast, West Coast, South, thing, form together, just to say that this can be a bigger thing. Because it's funny, where do you guys, what part of the country you guys live at?
North Carolina and Virginia.
So North Carolina, Virginia, we're in Kentucky, and it's funny. So we're all on this, I guess, the southern eastern part of the world. And I know here in Kentucky, seeing African Americans on horses or in agriculture is very little. I don't know if Trevor talked about the African Americans that he deal with that's in farming. And most of those farmers, would you say, Trevor, the average age is what, 65?
65 in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. 65, and it's funny to go see these 65-year-olds. One of the two of them are broke down. Mm-hmm. So that lets me know that one is doing the work, or they're actually both doing the work, but at the same time, they're breaking themselves down. But that I was trying to make was, if we could get some type of form together, because if you go out on the West Coast, this stuff that we're talking about is so normal. I don't know if you guys have heard of, now they've got this Compton Cowboys thing. It's so funny, they kind of pumped themselves up, because when I lived in California, it was just, a bunch of people riding. Now they're making it a cool thing. They go and
yeah, we interviewed them a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And so, like, they've made it so big now, because when I lived there, it was just, you had a couple people that kind of rode through the neighborhoods, or they would trailer their horse up and go take a ride. But now they kind of made it a glamorous thing, which to me is cool. It's fine. But at the same time, I don't know if they're bringing the kids in, or for us, it's more about the long road. Not the right now, but the long road, and how that you can make a business from it if you get in. So
yeah, and they have the their nonprofit, the Compton Junior Posse, or Compton Equestrians. Yeah, so they have they don't do a large number of kids, just because they focus on education as well. So they don't want to, get a large group of kids and then not be able to put that time.
The one-on-one time.
Yeah. But you're right. They're doing some super cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's fun.
We need to step up over here.
Yeah. I think it would be pretty awesome for us to all come together and just be like a party of the minds. Because, I mean, just the power of social media, honestly, you know, us being able to connect to people that we literally would never have known that you guys are doing this. I mean, we're states away. Right. You know, that's just something that we are very fortunate to have today. So I'm thankful for that.
We appreciate this platform.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So what is one word of advice that you can give the aspiring, whether they be an equestrian or the aspiring person that wants to put something together to educate a group of people?
You said one word or advice?
Just advice, not like one word.
I think the thing that I would say is don't be afraid to change the narrative. Actually, not really changing the narrative. All you're really doing is bringing it back to the surface. Because at one point in time, we were already doing it. Yeah. For whatever reason, it got depleted or went, you know, wherever it went to. But don't be afraid to change the narrative. And the one thing that I've learned is be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trevor, what about you?
So so I'm a student of Neely Fuller. So I believe every action we take has to be constructive, and don't wait on somebody else to do it for us. You know, if you're in the woods, a lion ain't gonna wait for a gazelle to magically just pop up on his plate. He's got to develop hunting skills to hunt it. We understand that we come from a village culture. You know, it's upon each of us to pass down what's behind us. And so, you know, my thing, tying on to what he said, don't be scared to shake things up. You know, don't wait on somebody else to fund our liberation, so to speak. You know, this is, you know, the Most High has endowed us with capabilities. We're all been given a light to shine. Lights don't talk; they shine. People in darkness watch them, and then they travel their path. And so, don't wait on somebody to pay you to shine your light, because most of the time they pay you to dim it.
That's my guy, the philosopher. That's why I hang with him, because he's a philosopher.
That was amazing.
That was perfect. That is gonna be a perfect little soundbite. Both of y'all, you're great. You're amazing.
Appreciate you guys. Anytime you need us, don't hesitate to reach out. Whatever we do, we will definitely try our best to do. I mean, at least to keep this thing going.
Do something together.
I know. I already got my mind wheels working.
I know it's going.
We're gonna have to reach out and definitely collaborate on something soon.
Sounds good to me.
Gotta let everybody know your social medias and where to find you.
I am at Frankie's Corner, Little Thoroughbred Crusade, or www.frankiescorner.org.
You can find more information about Farmer Brown at www.farmerbrownthemc.com. That's farmerbrownthemc.com, and also blacksoil.life.
Blacksoil.life. Awesome. All righty. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on our episode today.
Thank you, ladies. You guys keep up the absolutely amazing, outstanding work that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Young Black Equestrians, sponsored by the Online Riders Collective. Be sure to head over to our Facebook and Instagram pages, give us a follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and let us know what you think about this episode with Farmer Brown and Jermo. These programs are amazing, and we would love for you to support them. See you guys next week.